On this journey of furniture flipping, I have met the coolest people. Everyone has been so kind and wonderful, and this piece is no exception. I had a woman message me on one of my other listings, said, "Hey, I really like what you do, and I'd like to just give this to you." I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, I started it, don't want to finish it, so I'd just like you to have it because I like your other pieces." And I, of course, was blown away and then had to borrow a truck because this thing is giant and wouldn't fit into my little SUV. So it was missing the lock. Initially, I ordered a new one, so I knew I was gonna have to fill these holes because there's no way I could find the perfect lock for this, but I did my best and I actually ended up having to kind of mess with it a little to make it work, but it ended up working out. So I just kind of inspected the whole piece and went through, figured out what was wrong with it, if there was any repairs that needed to be made. There's quite a few kind of mess ups in the veneer of it. I wanted to keep a lot of this wood, but there was way too much spray paint overspray, a bunch of chips taken out of it, like all over the place. And anywhere that I really wanted to keep the wood look, it just didn't fit in. So I was kind of bummed about that because I did really want to keep it, but there was just too much actual damage to the piece and I couldn't fix it because it was like 2 millimeters thick of lacquer holding this thing together. So it was completely missing the screws out of the very bottom hinge on this side, and I just kind of keep little extra screws in this little cardboard thing here, so I went through, found a couple that would fit, and then since I like things to be pretty uniform, on the top 2 hinges I removed the middle screw out of those ones and then used those on the top and bottom of this, and then just added one of my screws to the middle of each of the hinges. I hope that made sense. And then I also added a little bit of glue around the screw as I was screwing it in because my screws were different and I just wanted to make sure that it would, really sit in there and not have any issues later. Then I went through, checked the scratches on the inside. I tried to get them out as best I could, but they were a bit too deep and I didn't want to damage. This is veneer in here, so I couldn't go too deep into sanding. So I just gave it a light sand, then cleaned everything, and then I went through with my hemp wax and waxed the entire inside of the piece, including the drawer slides and all that on the right hand side of the armoire. And now I'm just doing a scuff sand over this whole thing. This is a glossy piece, so anything that is this shiny, you are going to want to give it just a rough up sand. You want your paint to have something to stick to. You don't want it to bubble up or not adhere. I mean, you don't want to do something this big just to find that your paint's going to fail later. So make sure you're giving it a good scuff sand. And then here I have some joint compound that I had mixed up from a piece that I was also working on at this time. And I was like, oh, this gives me an idea of what I should do. So to this piece, I'm going to be doing a raised stencil. You kind of saw the thickness of what I was going for. That's just about right. You can be a few degrees up or down from that thickness level, but you do want to make sure that it will sit on the surface without dripping down. And voila. So this stuff dries really quickly, but not fast enough to be able to put your stencil below it. So what I did is I worked on 3 sides at a time. I had to mix up a few different batches of this because, like I said, it dries pretty quickly. And then so I'll start on this side, move it over to the other side, and then just work my way around as it dried. So as you're doing this, you kind of want to work with your spatula kind of flat. You're not scraping it at a 90-degree angle. You want it to be pretty almost parallel to the piece as you're doing it. And that will make sure that you're getting a nice texture on your piece without too much and without scraping off more than you should, so that you're not getting enough texture. Okay, so as you can see, I had a little bit of bleed through because I had been using my stencil so heavily here. So I just take my finger and wipe back any parts that I don't really want on there. Mind you, I don't care if there's a little texture in it because it's a raised stencil. It's gonna look awesome. I did have to wash the stencil quite a few times in this whole process because, like I said, the joint compound dries really quickly and you want to make sure that it's not messing up your stencil. And then I just went through and gave everything just a nice quick brush sand. Now onto paint. I knew I was doing this cream color. This is just a blend that I already had sitting around and I really liked it and I wanted to use it up, so that's what I did. You guys know I hate painter's tape, or I hate using it at least. So around these edges where it's easy for me to clean up and easy for me to get a good cut line, I didn't bother putting tape in. I did, however, have to tape this side here because there is no way I could not get it in. That's the gold right there is textured, so there wouldn't be any way I could wipe it back. And then here, I'm actually using a tiny detail brush to paint in all around those details there because my regular size brush wouldn't fit in. And then this is the fun part. I knew I just wanted my base to be the blend. I didn't want the whole piece to be blended. So the very bottom is going to be my iron gate. And then I just go through and wipe off anything that got anywhere else. So that's my solid color. And then the iron gate, of course, is going to go at the very bottom of this as well. And then blend up into the fun colors. So I started doing both sides of the front door and then quickly decided that I should just do one side at a time because I didn't want my paint to dry too fast and I didn't want it to feel like I had to rush. So I ended up just doing the right side on its own first, and then I went over to the left side once I was finished. So I did indigo blue, and then this one is the dark purple plum. They blend really, really well together and well into the iron gate. The indigo is a bit brighter, so unless you get that kind of spread out a little bit, it does tend to look a little brighter than the iron gate and the plum. And then this is sapphire. Oh man, I love this color. It's become a new favorite very quickly, and I love the way that it looks with the plum. I think it is just so pretty. So this is a messy blend. I'm not doing anything too perfect. I kind of want it to look a little kind of shade and light everywhere. I'm not trying to get like super smooth because this is such a textured piece. I wanted it to look kind of smoky and mottled. So I'm not using new brushes for this anywhere. I'm just using my same brushes back and forth between the colors till I get something that I like. And we're going to be doing a couple things over the top too, so it's just not terribly important that these are a perfect blend. Also, this is the first coat, so it's not terribly important at this stage anyways. Okay, so now I'm starting the second coat. This is just me hitting my gray on the very bottom. But the second round of that. And then I'm going to be kind of perfecting what I didn't like in the first round. So here I decided to go up a little higher with my gray, a little higher with my blue, just kind of bring things up more than they were. I felt it just kind of looked a little unbalanced, so that's what I'm doing. That's kind of what your second coat's for, is just figuring things out, getting everything the way that you like it. It's kind of the fun stage where you don't have to do any of the work of getting the paint on, you just get to kind of play and see what you like. Again, this isn't a terribly smooth blend. I want it to be cloudy and kind of all over the place. So if you want something a little smoother, that's totally fine, but you do you. I just really liked how it looked over all the swirls and everything of the raised stencil. And then here you can see me doing the sides. You want to keep doing your sides as you go because the colors will change as you blend, and you want to make sure that they are cohesive when the person opens the doors. So I know I sped this up really fast, but I'm hoping that you're getting this. It's just kind of a messy thing. I use my brush, I use a lot of water when needed, and I just keep moving the colors around to where there's somewhere that, you know, I like them. So this is the fun part. This is a pearl paint. It's a water-based also, so everything is happy. They like working together, and then I'm just adding enough water to make it kind of in between milk and a milkshake. So kind of a melted milkshake, if you will. So I'm putting this on. It should be dripping down your piece. It should be that watery, but not so much so. And then I'm taking a cloth and ragging it back. So I'm not doing any wiping motions. I'm putting it on with a brush, and then I take my rag and blot it back off. So this isn't giving any brush strokes, but it is letting everything kind of look very textured along with everything else. So the whole top piece looks like one giant pearl, which is just lovely. But the bottom this is helping the colors kind of sit better together. And also it makes it look like a bubble because of the colors that we used. You know, like when you see a bubble in the sunlight, that's kind of what this looks like when the light hits it just right. It is just lovely. So I'll be doing this finish again. I hope you don't get bored of it, but I just thought it was so pretty. Okay, and now, putting the hardware back on. Okay, so here's the sealing step. I chose to use gray wax because I wanted to add more dimension to this piece because it has the raised stencil on it, and we did the pearl, which does a really good job on the high points. This gray wax will sit in all the low points when we go to wipe it back, and it will just give even more dimension and let those kind of stencil points really, really stand out. So this is the whole piece from beginning to end. The whole piece was sealed in the gray wax and it turned out lovely. I did add a little bit of white wax on this portion here, and I think it just kind of added to that cloudiness. I am, however, going to try and sell this piece on Etsy, so this is going to be a whole other process than what I'm used to, but since Facebook Marketplace has been kind of messing with my listings, I just thought I'd try something new. In addition to that, my area doesn't take wardrobes that well. Like, there's a bunch listed, but nobody really seems to be buying any of them. So I feel like this will be a good experiment. So wish me luck, and I will see you guys next week.